Today I'm going to be sharing 3 tips for you parents that want to make the most of your story time with your kids, as well as 5 personal reading recommendations I would give that are very enriching for both you as the parent and for your child as you read them. They're safe, they're wonderfully funny, they're witty, and they're just all around great suggestions for children's reading. Tip number 1 for parents is to read early and often. As early as possible, as often as possible. It doesn't matter whether your child is 3 years old when you watch this, 3 months old, 3 days old, or even still in the womb. It doesn't matter. Read as quickly as you see this video and as often as possible. And by often as possible, you should be reading a minimum of every day for at least 15 to 20 minutes, bare minimum. This is going to do a couple things. First of all, it's going to familiarize your child to your voice. It's going to get them used to a special time. This is a blocked out window of time that I have with mom and dad where I have their undivided attention and they have mine. So it establishes an important routine. It makes the child understand that family time is important. There's no electronics, there's no screens, there's TV, nothing. You leave all that in your bedroom, you go to your child's bedroom and you open up a story and you read to them, and this is your special moment. As early as you can set this pattern of behavior, the better. The second tip for parents is to make the voices of the characters as you read them. This adds a whole new level of enjoyment for your kids as they're listening to the story. It allows their imagination to really unfold and starts that early process of understanding that a story isn't just mom reading me a story, dad reading me a story. It's not a monotone experience. This is where they start to understand that there are differences in the characters, not just in who they are, for instance, a frog or a rabbit or an elephant or a pig. They actually have different personalities, different ways of speaking, different patterns, and making the different voices helps them kind of slowly get into that understanding of how literature is supposed to work, how the reading of fiction is supposed to work when you open up a good novel. The third piece of advice I would have for parents is to read the book beforehand by yourself before reading it to your kids, and this is going to do a couple different things. First of all, it's somewhat of a pre-screening of the book before you read it to your kids, just to make sure it's 100% safe, it's 100% full of material that you're okay with your child reading and being exposed to. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to allow you to practice the story, to understand the tempo of it, to understand the pace of it, who the different characters are, who's saying what at what time. It's almost like an actor or an actress reading through their lines before going on stage and actually performing the lines. So this is very similar to that. You're really creating entertainment, special entertainment between you and your child, and you want to be prepared for that. So for instance, with myself, I feel a whole lot better when I'm reading a story to my kids and I've read it beforehand. I feel practiced and I can kind of have a nice flow to the story. The narrative is very smooth. The characters are exactly in order. I can make Frog's words very different from Toad's words, who's different from all the other ancillary characters that are in there. It makes for a much more seamless experience that your child's going to enjoy if you practice reading it beforehand. Now for my 5 reading recommendations to parents. The first book recommendation is a personal favorite of mine. All of my kids loved it, especially my 2 youngest boys. That is The Adventures of Frog and Toad by Arnold Lobel. It is an award-winning series. It's still in print today. All it is the friendship between Frog and Toad, their funny little adventures, and it's very day-to-day. It's very simple, but it's also very charming. Your kids will love it. They'll love all the little idiosyncrasies of Toad and the lightheartedness of Frog, and if you do the voices, it makes it so much more enjoyable. I know you'll get a kick out of this one. The next book recommendation is any of the Peter Rabbit books written by Beatrix Potter. There's a whole series of them. It's not just Peter Rabbit, but there's also Benjamin Bunny and Squirrel Nutkin. There are all these different little woodland creatures, and they all have their little charming aspects about them. They're unique little story lines, and they intertwine as well. So the different characters, you have the different characters in their own stories, but then they also mix and mingle. So you might see Peter Rabbit in the story of Benjamin Bunny, or you might see Benjamin Bunny in the story of Squirrel Nutkin. But so you'll see them kind of weave in and out of their characters. So you have this entire little charming, quiet world. The one thing about this series in particular is that it seems quiet and peaceful while also being entertaining. So it's somewhat of an entertaining book to read to your kids, but also it's kind of calming. The next book recommendation is anything by the author E.B. White. My favorite to read of E.B. White's books is Stuart Little, although a close second would probably be Charlotte's Web. This one in particular it's very fun. Stuart is so full of character and life, and he's so formal and charming, and you want to see what his response to a particular situation is going to be. You want to see how he's going to react. You want to see how ingenuous he is, and how he's able to use the materials around him to make up for his small size and stature. And it's very fun, it's very engaging, it moves fast, and the illustrations are always very good. They're ink, I believe, with a little bit of watercolor from the cover here. The fourth book recommendation is one that isn't so much story based, but it is nonetheless a children's classic that you and your child will both love and be very engaged in as you're going through it, and that's the I Spy series. This is a series done by Scholastic, and in it combines poetry and imagery. So in the poetry, you'll find a list of all these different items, and it follows kind of the cadence of a poem. And in the poem, you're finding a list of items to find in this vast photo of collected materials, and it's fun. You're searching, you and your child are searching. It's really exciting when you find it and you get to move on to the next item on the list. My kids love it. They ask me to read it with them all the time and to help them search and find the items. That even gets really competitive at times. So this one in particular gets engaging for the parents to read. For my fifth recommendation, I did want to provide something that's a little more modern and that's a little more recent, and so I picked the Elephant and Piggy series. This has Gerald the elephant and his best friend Piggy, and they go on all kinds of simplistic adventures. And what I like about this one is it's very simple, and it's almost exclusively, it actually is exclusively dialogue based. And this is actually a very fun one for parents to add the different voices. I always give Gerald kind of a deep, bumbling, almost Patrick Star from SpongeBob voice, and Piggy kind of a high, squeaky, bubbly voice. And this allows the kids to understand dialogue as it relates in a story. And this one's a great example for that. And there's a myriad of different characters that you can also add voices for that pop their heads in at different times in the story. It's from the same author, Mo Willems, that also creates the pigeon ones, the pigeon stories. And this one is a lot of fun, and you go through these pretty quickly. Luckily, there's a whole lot of them. So these are my 3 pieces of advice and my 5 book recommendations. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, everybody, and go read something.